I'm Pio, and this morning I have the pleasure of speaking with Richard, a photographer that has entered the NFT space and has some really cool stuff going on. I'm really excited to dive in. How's it going, Richard?
All is good. I guess it's good afternoon from me here in Germany. So it's one of the challenges in this space already is the time difference with everyone, but all is good.
Awesome. Awesome to hear that. So, as I kind of mentioned, you're a photographer. You found yourself at this point in the NFT space. Right now is actually a very hot time for photographers being in the NFT space. I'm personally seeing a ton of new photographers entering the space. I have a few ideas on why that is, but I'd love to hear some context from you. Can you talk a little bit about your creative background and your career and how you've found yourself in the NFT space?
Yeah, sure. So I guess photography for me probably started, I took an interest in it properly in around 10 plus years ago. I decided to travel a little bit around the world. Naturally, I wanted to take a camera with me and take some nice pictures. And basically, for the first year of traveling around, I just had the camera on automatic. Didn't really bother to learn anything. And then at some point, I decided to actually just put in some time and to really sort of explore what the camera can do. And once I could see that, then the more creative element came into it. And then basically, after a sort of a year of traveling, I moved back to the UK and was a bit stumped. What do I do next with photography? Because beforehand it was sort of travel and landscapes. And just by chance, I did a fashion workshop. It was completely different, completely out of my comfort zone. It was working with people, teams of people. It was something more creative, and I threw myself into it. And fortunately, off the back of the workshop, everyone loved my work so much that I actually got commissioned by three or four of the people who were at the workshop to do more work, to do more photo shoots. And basically, I just had this sort of pivotal moment. And then really, I tried to mesh those two worlds together. So, really, just organizing fashion shoots, editorial shoots, a lot of personal work that involved pulling a team of people together and going out on location, finding some dramatic landscape or some cool churches or ruins or something like this, and just going out and doing some shoots. So that's sort of how it pivoted. And then as time's gone on, that's just evolved into pretty much what I do now. So yeah, 10 plus years, and started with photography and whilst traveling, and now I shoot fashion editorials, this kind of thing.
Awesome. And
Um,
and when did you get into NFTs?
so I've been in the crypto space for a few years, so I was fully aware of sort of what's going on in that sense and keeping an eye on everything. And then right at the back end of last year, so the end of December, beginning of January, I started noticing this sort of buzzword, and then jumped in at the beginning of the year. And like with crypto, I just went full throttle. I was like, look, someone give me a foundation invite. I spent a good couple of days trying to find one of those, and luckily I was gifted one quite early on, and I jumped straight in, put some work on foundation, and was very lucky that my Genesis piece was picked up by a collector, I think within the first day or two. And that was sort of the fuel that I needed on the fire to really just kick things off. And off the back of that, I minted some more work with some of that money, and sold two additional pieces to him, and now that's turned into three. So it's one of those things where it's a snowball effect, and things are really progressing. But I didn't really hold back. I didn't really have a lot of questions. I just said, you know what, this is a new platform. It's a new experience, and I'm also very realistic in knowing that no one really knows what's going on in this space. No one's an expert. They might think that they are, but you have to sort of take everything with a bit of a pinch of salt and just sort of be a little bit analytical. And basically, that's having that perspective has helped me just jump in and not think too much, because I see that often with some people where it really holds them back, which is understandable. It's an unknown space. It's a new space, but I just sort of dived right in. Um, yeah, so that's how I got into NFTs really.
Awesome. And I'll pull up your work now so people can take a look at it. This is your foundation right here. It looks like you've had a
Yep.
few sales at this point. So congratulations on those. Is this the Red Queen? Is this the Genesis piece?
Yep. Yep. That's the first one. That's like one of my all-time favorites. Yep. And yeah, a lot of the time people look at my work and think that it wasn't shot on location, but I have plenty of behind the scenes photos and many stories of those shoots. So actually, it was snowing that day. So it was mid December a few years ago, and it was snowing. So we didn't stay outside too long for this shoot. So
Okay, so was the like when people say that they don't believe that it's shot on location, they feel like this was done in
mhm.
front of a green screen or something?
To be honest, I never really asked why that is. That's probably a good question. I usually just more sort of go down the route of showing them behind the scenes photos or things like this. But yeah, I might have to start asking that question. This was
And
the same
how
again. Mhm.
okay. Okay, I was going to say how how has portrait photography in your opinion been received by the NFT market by the collectors? Because I see a lot of landscape photography, and
Mhm.
obviously the Twin Flame series by Justin Aversano is very successful and those are portraits, but in your experience, how is the portrait thing kind of translated to the NFT market?
I think everything was a slow burn at the beginning because photography wasn't really what it was as it is at the moment. And I think just different genres are taking off a little bit quicker than others. So we've seen the suddenly the boom in landscape photography. We're just now starting to see the more reportage kind of photography, this kind of thing, starting to catch up as well. So I think things are it's a bit like the horse races. You know, one's a little bit ahead of the other, and then it'll keep going like this. But I guess any trajectory forward for the photography space, whether it's portraiture or landscapes or macro photography, you know, um, it's still in the early phases, and it's really moving forwards. So I think it is lagging behind, but I don't imagine it's for too long.
Yeah, and I'm interested in that, just because I feel that the NFTs technology is really it's conducive to photography. Like when you talk to photographers, they talk about how selling prints typically isn't the most profitable thing, and maybe if you can sell a book, then that's a little bit better than selling prints. But now that you can actually sell your work as a digital token, and then if the collector wants a print too, that's great, but it's much more about that digital token of authenticity and the digital representation of the piece. And considering that a lot of photographers are actually natively digital, like, you don't see film as much, obviously, these days with the advent of digital tools like, digital cameras. To me, it really makes a lot of sense to move forward with selling the work as a digital item. What kind of observations do you have on just the current state of the NFT market and what you're seeing happening right now? I'd be curious to hear from you, someone that has their kind of boots on the ground, like what's going on right now.
I think we're starting to see. So it started with this idea of everyone wanted to get their initial pieces out, their ones of ones, because what most people were lacking was the knowledge of the background, the behind the scenes stuff. So the tech that's involved, understanding the crypto space. You can see that already in the language and the discussions that we're having. That the shift is more away from what's Ethereum or how do I mint something? And obviously, there will be people who have those questions still, but now there's more of this shift towards how can we utilize the technology? How can we provide more value for people who want to collect the work? We're now starting to see more people are helping others get into the space because they've been in it 3, 4, 5 months. They've had experiences. They've had those moments of success. They've had those moments where they've been burned, and that will help. These pioneers will help lead the way moving forward. So I think in that sense, things are changing quite rapidly, but definitely in a good way. Um, and I think with photography now, it's more. Um, people are slowing down a little bit in the sense of thinking out their ideas a little bit more. So we're starting to see like the idea of the collections. People are starting to think, how can I add utility to those collections? So there's various different things that are starting to show up. So I think now people have got over that sort of like panic phase of I have to get my work online and get it sold to how can I be in this space long term? How can I provide something? Because essentially, this is going to be forever on the blockchain as long as the blockchain exists. So you sort of have to think a little bit more than just what's right in front of you. And I think people are starting to take a moment and reflect a little bit, which is very good, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And you were talking to me a little bit off air about like the community that you've become a part of, and how that's kind of impacted your time in the NFT space. This is a theme that we talk about frequently on this channel, and it's a theme that you see brought up in the NFT space constantly. What has that kind of meant for you, and what does that look like for you? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So for me personally, the community side and the support of the community has been a huge surprise, like the biggest surprise of the whole thing, because we're all very much creatives in our own sense, and we like to be on our own and go out and do these photo shoots and do creative things. And most often than not, we do these alone. And traditionally, we'd post these photos on Instagram, and you would move on to the next thing. And there wasn't ever, especially from my experience, that sort of sense of community, that sort of feedback loop of discussing things with people and discussing photography and what it means and the stories behind the images. It was very much just scrolling through and look and move on. And I think in this space, like I say, it's been a huge surprise, a huge positive surprise. And it's so nice to meet people. It's nice to hear the stories about, why they got into photography, what they're doing. It's amazing to see sort of their work and say, how did you get that shot? What does it mean to you? And then just having the support of the community around you. So, if someone gets a sale, this is a huge thing. Everyone goes wild, just sharing it, retweeting, just really celebratory. The flip side, if someone has a problem or gets burned or something happens, the community rallies around and provides support. And I think this is something that, especially I think with what's going on in the world currently with our pandemic, was almost what we needed to really just sort of lift the spirits of people and really motivate people and really just get people fired up again. And you can really see that. And I think people have been craving it for a while now. And I think that's also helped the community move forward just as quickly as this NFT space. So I think it goes hand in hand with the work. I think you have to have good artwork, you have to have good images and this kind of thing, but really you need a community presence. And it's possible to do that now on Twitter because it's almost sort of reset everyone back to the same level. So everyone's sort of starting at the same point, because there's been times when you see photographers who maybe have done successfully well traditionally on Instagram, but then they come to Twitter and they don't know how to enter the space, and they're asking questions like, can you help me? And you think everyone's been given that chance to have sort of a little bit of like a reset button. And I think that's helped as well. So everyone's sort of rising with the tide, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, a lot of people definitely seem like they're rejuvenated, right? They feel like this has given them kind of a new hope, although that sounds
Yeah.
intense, but like a new hope to be able to monetize the work that they've been doing for so long. Someone like you that's been doing this work for over a decade, at the end of the day, I have to imagine that NFT space, offers you a sort of like an opportunity to kind of relight the flame and to revisit the idea of just being able to monetize your work in different ways, which I have to imagine is pretty exciting. Speaking of the artwork itself, from your perspective, like who are your creative influences? Who have you looked at and as other artists, whether in the NFT space, classical artists, classic photographers, who has been important to you and who has informed your work?
a lot of what has inspired me traditionally in my photography work has actually been fashion designers. So there's my love of fashion and editorial. So, anything by Alexander McQueen, Tim Burton, like these kind of more conceptual designers, Galliano, there's just many. I love watching fashion shows and seeing how they put these stages together and then they do the photo shoots. So there's a lot of inspiration for me comes from the fashion world. And in terms of the photography, I think one of the photographers, hope I don't pronounce the name incorrectly, is Sale Chong. He's a fashion photographer and beautiful work. She loves to shoot on location. Um, yeah, really beautiful photos, and they're really inspiring. But like I say, most of my inspiration I think comes from the fashion side of things. But in terms of the NFT space, I think what I've loved about it more than anything is I've been opened up to not only other photographers but other artists. I've never really been exposed to artwork that is done by painters or digital artists or 3D artists, and I'm just blown away by the talent that's out there. And yeah, I am very inspired by everything that I see. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because what I've talked about a few times is that now that photographers are sort of integrated into this, central area for artists, in other words, the NFT space, obviously it's decentralized, but at the same time, once you get into the space, at the end of the day, there's all these different artists from different mediums and they're able to create their own work in their own way. And it just gets, kind of wrapped up in that NFT wrapper and then it gets, sold to the public. Have you explored collaborating with any artists from other mediums? Because I think that that's like a really exciting idea, having a photographer, collaborate with a painter or a digital artist or a filmmaker, someone that maybe it wouldn't be as natural or, as probable to be able to effectively collaborate with.
So that's something that happened in my world before NFTs. So obviously, putting a photo shoot together is a collaborative effort. I have a full team of people, but I remember in particular there was one. I think it was watercolors. No, she was a painter, and she reached out to me and said, "I love this piece of work of yours. Could I recreate it on canvas?" And I was just blown away that's something that she wanted to do, and she was apparently very successful in her niche. And when I seen the final piece, I was blown away that was a painting. So that was something that had happened a few years back, and yeah, it's really opened my eyes. I've had the flip side of that where someone's taken my work and manipulated it and tried to pass it off as their own. But
Oh boy.
um,
Not exactly a
um,
collaboration there.
yeah, not the kind of collaboration I wanted, but yeah. And but since joining the NFT space, I have been lucky enough that a few people have reached out, and it's still early stages, but those conversations have started. So I'm open. I'm an open book. If anyone ever has questions or wants to know something, I'm quite happy to discuss it. And it's the same with my work. If someone loves what they see and they say, I'd love to do something with you, I'm open to it. I think you draw a lot of inspiration off other people. I think, especially creatively. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Awesome. And so what's coming next for Richard? What's kind of on the horizon here?
Well, obviously to keep posting some work, keep sharing some work, keep putting stuff on the blockchain, and see if I can keep moving forward on that trajectory. I have some ideas that I'm working on to try and sort of see how I can integrate more of the tech side of things into my work, but that requires a whole field of new conversations with new people that I don't really know or understand what they do. So I'm like, is this possible? And then they explain it to me, and I'm thinking, no, you lost me. But it's an exciting space, and I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I'm definitely trying to just take my time and plan things out. Obviously, trying to really just be actively engaged in the community. So whether that's helping doing some onboarding for new artists, especially the ones that, for example, I can help out if I've got like invites and things like this, or if they have questions about gas or Ethereum or how to get started. I'm happy to help people out in that sense. I guess we just started recently with the NFT Photographers Association, was the doing the Twitter Spaces, and getting that sort of becoming a regular thing, and having different people come in and either talk about their work or collectors and things like this. So it's more just engaging with people, creating good content, not just NFTs, and really just be present and be visible, and yeah, a few other things in the pipeline, but yeah, that's probably about it for now.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a real pleasure. Everyone, make sure you follow Richard. I have his Twitter handle right there on his name. Look out for the spaces that he operates. I've been in them before. They're definitely very informative, and they kind of showcase the power of the NFT space, kind of banding together. And yeah, Richard, we're looking forward to the rest of your work, and more pictures or photographs right now are available for sale. Like, people can buy your work right now on Foundation. It's not completely sold out yet, right?
Yep. There's stuff on Foundation. You can take a look. Yeah, and at some point there'll be a few bits more added as and when. But no, I don't have a set plan. I take it as it comes. But yeah, you can have a look.
Awesome. We'll definitely check out the foundation and scoop up any remaining work that he has. And Richard, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate when we connected last time with the written interview as well. So, love what you guys are doing in the team. So, keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.